All right, good morning. Hi, everyone. So this is the last Patreon video I'm doing this month. Oh my god, I saved my favorite for last because now it is time for me to read the 19th part of Sunshine for Kitty. Hi, Kitty, how are you? Thank you so much for everything that you do. You are wonderful. I'm so excited to get into this, and I want to thank you for another month of support on Patreon. So here we go. Everything's so messed up in this book. I'm also very surprised my voice has lasted this long. It hasn't been cracking as much as it was yesterday. Okay. I couldn't settle down to read that evening. Anything about the others made me twitchy. Anything else was so irrelevant as to be maddening. Child of Phantoms, another favorite comfort read for over a decade, failed to hold me. Reading was, of course, a problem with my dark vision getting in the way. But in fact, flat black type on a flat white page was easier to deal with than almost anything else. I did pretty well so long as I remembered to keep my head and the page perfectly still. If I didn't, the print jumped sick-makingly into 3 dimensions. Oh my god. It was like the advertising about some latest thriller or other. This story is so exciting it will leap off the page at you. For me, it did. This is disconcerting when you're reading Professional Baking Quarterly, which I usually tried to do. Oh, no! No hiccups! No hiccups in videos! That's illegal. It made me feel I had some of the right attitude, and the letters page was always good for a laugh. I love letters pages in magazines. Mom renewed my subscription every year as a supportive maternal present. Surprise. I did shut myself into the closet for half an hour with my comm box. I had to screw up my courage to hit the live button, but nothing happened except what is supposed to happen. Whew. Perhaps the comm cosmos isn't so homogeneous after all. I knew that the official line is that the comm cos is entirely a human creation, but then the official human line would be that, wouldn't it? And if there is a lot of vampire engineering in it, that would help to explain both where a lot of vampire money came from, why every authority on the planet, business, ecosyn, social service, governmental, all of them, is droolingly paranoid about vampires. However, if my combox was still in one piece and the Comcast equivalent of that big ugly thing that ate Schenectady hadn't burst out of the screen and seized me, there must still be enough human input to the workings of the Comcast to keep it heterogeneous. Schenectady. Schenectady, I said it right. God, what if I said it wrong? It is Schenectady, isn't it? Anyway, so I glanced through my Cosmel to make sure I wasn't missing anything important. The usual GlobeNet come-ons. A ride on the space bus for only 100 squillion blinks, and the soul of your firstborn child. A plastic surgeon who guaranteed to make you look like Princess Helga or your money back. This is actually really funny. I don't remember when this book was published, but like, isn't this more or less what the internet's turned into? And your face back too? I wondered. Learn spellcasting at home in your spare time. Earn zillions and live forever. And I always assumed the living forever was out of the same scam as the earning zillions. I wondered how old Yolande was. How old her master was. I doubted it was 400 years. I answered a few cost mails. My presence in various other zones had faded in the last 5 months. Could have given definite answers to some of the pet topics. Has a human once captured ever escaped from a vampire? Have a human and a vampire ever had a conversation on any kind of equal terms? Have a human and a vampire ever had any conversation imparted with the human still alive? Barring some of the media stuff, although another pet topic was whether any of the vampire interviews were real. That's weird. I meant like that's kind of a cool thought. I had no desire to do so. But it had only been since my first contact with other space that it had occurred to me that perhaps it would be a good idea to continue to pretend that Cinnamon, my ether name for 7 years, was an ordinary woman who hadn't had anything surprising happen to her lately. That is a good idea. That is a good idea, Sunshine. When I came out of the closet, it was barely twilight. I couldn't resist. I thought sunset was never coming. This might be the first day in my life I'd ever wanted darkness to come sooner. Sorry, I just got a ridiculous text message from one of my friends. I always wanted daylight to last longer. I had a lot more trouble getting up at 4 a.m. in winter when it was still going to be dark for hours than in summer when it would be glimmering toward dawn by the time I got to Charlie's. I took a cup of chamomile tea out into the balcony and waited, feeling the darkness falling as if it were something landing on my skin. I heard him coming this time. I don't know why I thought of it as hearing, when it had nothing to do with my ears. I didn't see any shadows moving among the other shadows of the garden either, although I knew he was there. Ooh. But it was more like hearing than it was like anything else. Like seeing in the dark is more like seeing than it is like anything else. The way here has grown in complexity, he said. Oh, huh? I said. Oh, that will be Yolande's new wards. Soph has set up some tickers, and I don't know what all. Tickers, said Khan. You know, I said. You must know. Soph uses them. They record any others that come near them. Tick tick, back at headquarters where they're watching the monitors. I have had not I have not had much contact with Soph. The Lone Ranger of Vampires. Did that make me Tonto? Oh God, no. No, no, no. Don't do that. Whatever. The point of is Soph thinks they're protecting me, so I asked Yolande to disarm any Soph snoopers that would notice you. Yolande, my landlady? You haven't told her about me. I snorted. She told me. Turned out she's known all along, and she's a wards keeper. She's really useful to have on your side. Khan was silent. I bet he's a little surprised. I felt sympathetic. I wouldn't have liked the idea if he'd brought a friend into our business either. I was so keyed up that I didn't think about our disastrous last meeting till I'd already taken his hand, and then it was too late. He came back from wherever he'd been, presumably thinking about having another human foisted on him, and he looked at me. His fingers curled around mine. I had a sense-around Dolby flash of the 10 seconds that didn't go anywhere, but I hit the mental sensor button, and it went poof. Excuse me. Listen, I said, although it was even less like listening than the non-sound of him moving toward me had been like listening. It was strangely easier, too, doing it with him, showing him my roadmap rather than trying to figure it out myself. He had the language and the landscape, and I had a great idea. Next time Pat called me to into Soph for a little more technical mayhem, I'd bring Khan. Hi, I'd like you to meet my helpful vampire friend. Don't worry, my landlady is a mostly retired wards keeper, and she says he's okay. Sure, speaking of having more humans foisted, Pat would take some foisting. But I stared into Khan's green eyes and aligned myself, or him, like you might take someone's shoulders and turn them round so they're facing the right direction. Like you might point at a map once you've told your companion, see, it's those mountains you see right over there. For a very nasty moment, I thought I'd somehow managed to remake the live contact. That we weren't looking at a map of those mountains, but had been transported there, and the tigers were closing in. I jerked back. But Khan's hand held me, and the jerk was like the click-over of the kaleidoscope, and the colored bits fell into a new arrangement. It was weirdly something like looking through an aquarium at a lot of fish. The fish were whizzing around like crazy, cannonball fish, but I could see them individually, a little, and they did look like distinct and specific little whizzings arounds instead of like chaos. This was interesting, although it didn't really get me any farther. They were still moving too fast for me to track a pattern or make my way among them. But this wasn't as sick-making or as terrifying to watch or to think about. Presumably this was a good thing, but I remembered the quality of the terror and wasn't sure that not being terrified was wise or sane. What we were looking for was behind the whizzing things, and that was still just as sick-making, just as terrifying. I didn't like this animated three-dimensional map. Here be dragons. Much worse than any dragon, which are pretty straightforward and straightforwardly alive creatures that merely suffer that little character defect about liking to eat human flesh. Are you fucking telling me this book just revealed that dragons are real too? What isn't fucking real in this book? Here be horrors indescribable. I barely sensed the dreadful loom of it, the differentiation of it from its manic pinball machine guard system, before I was repulsed, hurled away more violently than Khan had thrown me the other night, except it was Khan this time, who caught me. I flopped against his arm round, let me do that again. I was flopped against him, his arm round my waist, my ear pressed to his silent chest. I grabbed at his other arm, steadied myself, balanced again on my own feet, which seemed very small and very far away. Have I given us away? Khan, was that live? The world still spun. If there had been anything in my stomach but tea, the muffins were a long time ago. It might have come up. As it was, the tea sloshed vindictively a few times and subsided. The chain burned around my throat. No, said Khan. My sunshine, you must learn moderation. This is not an enemy you can defeat by rushing his front gate. I made a little choking noise that might have been a third cousin twice removed to a laugh. I had no intention of anything resembling gate crashing. I thought I was just looking, except I wasn't looking. No, said Khan. I could feel him thinking. If you were a new one of us, there are things I could teach you. I do not think I can teach a human these things. Oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. I sighed. I believe you. Like seeing in the dark probably doesn't bother you because you don't spend a lot of time seeing in the light, right? I am sorry. As partners, we left a lot to be desired. Was that him? Khan's eyes blazed briefly, vampire eyes catching sight of their chosen prey. Don't look. Yes. Can you can you track him any better from what I sort of showed you? Khan's face arranged itself in one of its invisible to the naked human eye almost expressions. I guess this one was irony. Note, existence of vampire irony. I am not sure. It is certainly a signal we want to take heed of. How we take heed without jeopardizing ourselves unnecessarily, I do not yet know. Remember, that was not live, as you put it. It was only your memory. Your eggs. Twice in one day, I have come to a word that I realize I've never actually said out loud. Is it exegesis? How do you say this word? Exegesis. Your exegesis of what you saw. Interpretation, I guess. I shivered. I believe you were in far less danger, even last night, than you may fear. What this is a little like one of those machines with a strange radiance, which attract insects to their deaths. Zappers? Bug zappers. Bug flies in, zap. You were zapped. The machine does not register the bug, it merely zaps. I use these zappers also. Vampires don't use bug zappers, I said, interested. I like how that's the detail she's going to pick up on. There's nothing like an immediate death threat to make you crave a little superficial distraction. I'd observed this phenomenon before. All that hanging around out of doors after dark you guys do? No. Wrong kind of blood. Vampires do not, register on insect radar. Oh, that means you'll fucking get stung by mosquitoes. Fuck you, vampires. That's fucking unfair. That isn't fair. I would almost become a vampire just for that. God damn it. Okay. At last, a really good reason to want to be a vampire. Fucking right? I was one of those people you invite on your picnic or your hiking expedition because the bugs will all crowd around me and leave everyone else alone. I don't get it that bad. Well, it depends. If it's indoors, I'm the one everyone loves because I run very warm. It's not fucking fair. Anyway, sunshine, get a grip. This is the first time I've been, well, let me tell you the rest of it. I did. So last night was the third time and the worst. You don't think he might be using some sort of fancy zapper that says, hey, boss, this bug keeps coming back? I think we'll ask you not to go near that place again for the time being, even if this Pat asks you to try. It's not Pat I'm so worried about, I said. It's the goddess of pain. Ah. His expressionlessness took an ominous cast. Khan, I said nervously. His gaze came back from wherever it had been, and he looked at me. No, he said. I didn't ask what no meant. Vampires are a little like burglars, okay? If a bright, determined vampire really wants to get into your house, he's going to do it. And the best alarm system in the world, and the electric moat, and the 16 genetically enhanced Rottweilers, and the wards and the charms, and the little household godlets blessed by the priests, or pontifexes of the religion of your choice, and spell cast by the best sorcerers money can buy, aren't going to stop him or her. You really don't want to piss a vampire off, because it's a lot harder having all that plastic surgery and the hemo treatment to change your blood chemistry than it is to sell your house and go live in a small cabin with nothing in it to steal. Also, the hemo treatment not only costs a bomb, occasionally it kills you, although at least 2 of the Global Council members have had it done twice that anybody knows about and are still here. So you're telling me, so those are people who piss off a vampire and then go get their blood changed so that the vampire cannot hunt them down. I am so fascinated by all these reveals about this culture and what has, happened since the wars. It's so interesting. The usual, which is to say, expensive drastic options aren't available to coffeehouse bakers. Having realized that my being alive geared Bo up, Khan wasn't my best choice. He was my only choice. But the problem with having a non-human as your ally was that a non-human might not be, very sentimental about the odd human life here and there. Especially not a vampire non-human about a human who shows signs of reading the mind of the vampire's human ally. And fair is fair. I wasn't very sentimental about vampires as a group either, was I? If you can say no to the goddess... I'm sorry. Let me do that again. I can say no to the goddess if I have to, I said, perhaps a little more loudly than necessary. I am certain you can, Sunshine, said Khan. He was gone. A moment later. That's it. Oh, my God. I didn't exactly see him go, but I didn't hear him moving away from me, and I didn't see the shadow among the other shadows. after he was gone. I didn't pay a lot of attention, however, because I was preoccupied with a feeling on my mouth, as if he had kissed me before he left. Ugh. Ugh. This big showdown, whenever it happens, is going to be oh my god, I can't. More horrible, grisly marking time, wondering what was going on, wondering what is going on behind my back, wondering what is about to leap out of the shadows at me. At my worst, I could begin wondering if I'd imagined Khan. Well, he was the part that didn't fit the pattern, wasn't he? Nice, helpful, if somewhat reassuring-looking vampire. Please. There was enough to remind me there was something going on, starting with a scar on my breast, and moving through seeing in the dark and the spontaneous combustion of pillows, and ending, perhaps, with the fact that there didn't ever not seem to be some soft or other at Charlie's now, and that any time I walked in or out of the door, whoever it was, his eyes fixed themselves on me. For while I made a point of coming in the side door at any time, or any time the coffee house was open, but I decided this was making a bigger issue of something I couldn't do anything about. So on days I was feeling hearty, I went through the front. Let him stare. It had taken Emil's remark to make me notice that Mrs. Bielowski was occupying her table more than usual, but she'd nominated herself as one of my protectors in one very practical way. Some mangled version of recent events meant that we still had gapers coming in to check out if I had 3 heads or spoken tongues. Gapers. They didn't stay long if Mrs. Bielowski rumbled them, which kindly took the onus off our staff, which, if they weren't getting as tired of my notoriety as I was, had every right to. And see, that's another thing that's fascinating about it, is that the news of Sunshine has spread. She's had this interaction. She survived. Huh. Very fascinating. But it was all too much, and my overworked and exhausted brain started looking for things to call imaginary. Khan was such a perfect choice. Sometimes felt if I could get rid of Khan, I could be rid of all the rest of it. Beau, my heritage and weird talents, soft, suffocating interests, a lot. I know it wasn't true, but I did have one nice surprise. One afternoon I came out of the bakery and discovered someone unfamiliar sitting at Mrs. Bielowski's table, and with whom Mrs. B was in deep conversation. I couldn't resist this, so I slid along behind the counter to get a look without walking up to the table and staring. Not that my subterfuge worked, because Mrs. B immediately raised her head and looked back at me. But this made the other person turn to look at what Mrs. B was looking at. She broke into a smile when she saw me. It was Maud. I hadn't registered till then that there was a large plate on the table between them that presently contained a light sprinkling of crumbs and one single remaining killer zebra. One of these mornings at 4:30 a.m., I was expecting to find a soft lurking on a street corner too, and the fact that I didn't see one didn't convince me there wasn't one somewhere. Pat had made an official offer to have me escorted to and from home, which I didn't let him finish before I refused. Other than that, I hadn't seen much of him. Damage control with the goddess, I assume. I was interested in myself that my desire for autonomy was still stronger than my fear of what might or what was about to happen. My unfavoritist corner, when I arrived at Charlie's before dawn, wasn't the nearest one, where Mandelbaum met the main road, but across the square, at the mouth of one of the littlest and darkest alleys of Old Town. I pretended to fish for my keys, and then made a big pantomime fuss about choosing the right one every morning as I scanned for shadows that didn't lie right. Shadows never lay right in that corner. I always felt watched these days. It was just a question of watched by whom or what. Oh. And that's the thing, I don't even know if she really is being watched. Oh, it's creepy. After I opened the door and went in, I relocked the door behind me before I turned off the alarm system. It used to be I didn't bother to relock the door. I'd ask Charlie to program an extra few seconds delay to the bell so I could. He looked at me worriedly, but he'd done it, and he hadn't asked any questions. He wasn't going to say the V word if I wasn't. Oh my God. We don't have a state-of-the-art alarm system at Charlie's. We can't afford it. But this is one of the ways having soft friends is useful. We do have some funny little gizmos that tell you if anything has been disturbed. Nothing went on being disturbed, except my mental state. I was pulling maple cornbread. Oh, please, can I have some of that? Out of the ovens at about 8 one morning when Mary came in to say Theo wanted a word. I thought about it. Okay, I said, time I had a break, I guess. Theo sidled in like the reluctant bearer of unwelcome news. My private bakery kettle was beginning to hiss and burble. Tea? He shook his head. Cornbread? He brightened immediately. I was as bad as Polly, really, despite how long I'd been doing this. Someone wants to eat my food, they're automatically my friend. Someone who doesn't want to eat my food, they automatically aren't. This is an awkward attitude if you hang out. If you hang out a lot with a vampire. Theo was an old enough hand in the kitchen, my kitchen anyway, to know to approach something fresh out of the oven with caution. He took the whacked off, still squodgy with baking end of a loaf of maple cornbread gingerly and watched happily as the approximately quarter pound of butter he put on it melted through. That is a good man, put in that much butter. He would lick the plate when he was done. This was one of the advantages of eating out back. Table manners weren't required. I'd been known to lick plates myself. Once, when I was teasing Kyoko about him, I mentioned he was a plate licker. She looked briefly interested. Oh, maybe he's human after all. Oh my god! Then she shook her head. Nah, he's soft. This was in hindsight a better joke than I'd realized. It was a really fucking good joke. You'd better get it over with, I said, after he'd finished licking the plate. He sighed. Pat would like to see you this afternoon. Oh, God. I decided in the pre-dawn darkness of the morning after I'd met the goddess what I was going to say the next time Pat wanted to talk to me. It won't do him any good. Something burned out the other night. I burned out. I woke up the next morning with a piece missing. It's still missing. He looked surprised, worried, then thoughtful. Then, to my great surprise, hopeful. He'll still want to see you. Why are you looking so pleased? He hesitated. The goddess wants to take over. Take you over. She says it's because Pat destroyed government property, that he's bungled, that she wants to clean up the mess, that you're to be sent back where you came from after she's sure no security has been breached, that it was all glang anyway. But it's really because she's pissed off that someone may have thought of something or discovered something before she did. Something that might be important, something she might be able to use. Oh, she sounds fun. And you think Pat will think that merely blowing out the County HQ's comm system on a bad call is better than the goddess finding out maybe it's a good call? Yeah. I thought of her, walking nuclear reactor aura. If I wasn't if I wasn't afraid of the goddess already, I would be now. He smiled. It was a rickety sort of smile. You don't know half. You don't want to know half. You want my advice? You stick to suckers. When do you get off today? Pat will come by just before. 3, I said. His eyes were wandering to the muffin racks. There was a bran raisin, an oatmeal applesauce allspice waiting to go in the cases up front. Have one for the road, I said. Thanks, he said. He took 2. My hero. That is the hero of this entire book. Everything else is downhill from here. Okay. Pat drifted in. Here we go. A few minutes to 3. I now knew that it would take a lot to make him look short of sleep. And he looked short of sleep. He looked worse than short of sleep. He raised hollow eyes and said, Hey, sunshine. You look like hell, I said. I was scraping out the last baking tin. Our Albion crowd would have to be really hungry today to get through this lot. And I'd made my special cream cheese sauce to go with the triple gingerbread. Fuck you, I want that too! God damn it, I love gingerbread. Oh, when the season there's ginger and everything, and I'm so excited. Okay, I'd long felt that gingerbread, while excellent in itself, was still essentially an excuse to eat the sauce. This book understands me so deeply and truly, so it always made twice as much proportion as the original recipe called for. Then it turned out that some of the other customers were even more crazed than I was, so it started making 3 times as much, and we served it in little sauce boats. Sauce boats! You got purists occasionally that didn't want any sauce, but the slack was taken up somehow. Purist. Boo to them. And I love gingerbread plain, but like boo to them, you gotta put the sauce on. Thanks, he said. What's happening? He shrugged. His shoulder must be better. Maybe blue demon blood made you heal fast too. What Theo told you? You look like you've been let out of the dungeon. I thought thumbscrews were passé. The goddess doesn't need thumbscrews. She just looks at you and you feel your brains melting. Ugh, I thought of the other night. I believe you. Theo says you've lost it. Yeah, I'm safe from the goddess. No brains left to melt. No one is ever safe from the goddess. The Pat I knew surfaced and gave me a familiar look. Shrewd, humorous, no nonsense. How lost do you suppose it is? I pulled off my apron and untied my hair. Lost enough for now. If I replace a fuse and the system starts working again, I'll let you know. Maybe you're just tired, said Pat. Maybe, I said amiably. Pat ran his hand through what was Let me do that again. Pat ran his hand through what was... Oh my God. Pat ran his hand through what there was of his hair. There we go. I don't like it when you agree with me, sunshine. It's not your style. What aren't you telling me? That I'm relieved not to have to try again? I said. I knew he bought it. He sagged, suddenly looking smaller and older. Felt a fierce pang of guilt, but I reminded myself that he believed that the only good vampire was a staked, beheaded, and burned vampire. Briefly and wistfully, I considered a scenario where Khan and I had a soft team with us when we whatever. But I recognize this as a fantasy, like a scenario where the goddess of pain retired from Soft and opened a daycare center. You look like a man who needs caffeine, I said. I'll grab us something from the counter and meet you outside. Do you want privacy or comfort? Comfort meant the nice little tables out front, overlooking the square, and Mrs. Bielowski's flower bed, still doing its stuff with chrysanthemums and asters this late in the year. Excuse me. He was sitting at one of the unsteady tables in that grim little courtyard behind the coffee house that by never doing anything with we could continue to avoid opening to customers. He got used to that roar of the kitchen fans, and Mom had a couple of tough little evergreen shrubs and pots that could survive the cooking fumes. Pat and I didn't talk about anything much after all. He drank the coffee and engulfed the various buns and other edible objects I'd brought, but absent-mindedly, like a refueling procedure. The fact that he didn't argue with me about trying again, about trying to find out the extent of the burnout, about whether or not there really was a burnout, made me feel more guilty. Silence fell. Pat stared into nothing. I'm sorry, I said. He looked up at me. I believe you, he said. He stood up. I'm not sure I believe the rest of it, but I believe you're sorry about it. He paused. Makes my life easier in some ways. Another gleam of the normal Pat as he said, maybe by the time you've decided you're not burned out anymore, the goddess will have found someone else to crucify. I didn't say anything. He rubbed both hands through his hair this time and added, I didn't say this, but watch your back, sunshine. Then he left. No! Mel wandered out a few minutes after Pat had left. I was staring into my teacup. I'd forgotten to bring a sieve out, so there were tea leaves in the bottom of it, but I couldn't read them. You look like a woman who needs a good laugh, he said. Have you heard the one about the were-pigeon and the street cleaner? Yes, I said. Well, do you suppose anyone is exactly who they say they are? Charlie, maybe, he answered, after a little pause of surprise or consideration. Can't think of anyone else. Huh. I watched his hand lift off the table and rub one of his tattoos. Maybe I should have been thinking about tattoos myself, but there's a real big drawback to them. Any charm can be turned against you if you run into the thing it's supposed to be protecting you from, and the thing is enough stronger than the protection. A powerful enough demon, adept, or magic handler can overwhelm one too, although that's serious feud stuff and not common. A tattoo feeds itself on you, so tattoos do tend to be a lot more stable and longer lived than the ordinary charms you set around and hang up, including the ones you wear next to your skin. But a charm that isn't living off you can be destroyed a lot more easily if it does go or is sent rogue. A rogue tattoo can eat you up. It happens occasionally. Well, that's creepy. 4 or 5 months ago, I didn't figure I needed any heavy warding. Now that I did, tattoos were the last thing I was going to try. Charlie, I said. I can't think of anyone else either. Not Mel. Not me. Not Mrs. B, said Mel, smiling. Sunshine, I don't like metaphysics unless I'm drunk. It's only 3:30 in the afternoon, and I'm working tonight. What's up? If Mel had really been trying to pass as a motorcycle hoodlum, his tattoos wouldn't be as beautiful or as elaborate. Lots of sorcerers go in for a superabundance of tattoos, but they mostly keep them hidden. They're harder to rogue that way. Hence the long enveloping robe and deep hood technique with inked-up sorcerers when they're actually handling magic. For day-to-day, walking the dog, doing the shopping use, a lot of sorcerers disguise the real shape of their tattoos with cosmetics. Oh, long sleeves and high collars are hot in the summer, and there are favorite sorcerer tattoos that go on your lips and cheeks and forehead too. But, I love this, magic can apparently be a bit perfunctory about certain things in the heat of transaction. Any tattoo a sorcerer wants working while he or she handles magic can't be distorted with face paint or pancake foundation because it may turn out to be the apparent figure that performs. Or doesn't. This is so fascinating. My dad didn't have any tattoos, that I remembered, but I didn't remember my dad very well, and not all sorcerers have tattoos. But sorcerers are sorcerers. Tattooists mostly make their livings punching charms in leather, not live skin, and they'll try to talk an ordinary member of the public out of it if you already have, say, 3 magic-bearing tattoos, even little boring ones, and they'll tell you why, in vivid detail. It just isn't the rogue possibility. A lot of magic-bearing tattoos can sort of unbalance you. You start not being quite sure where the real-world lines are with a lot of tattoos whispering in your dreams. Of course, having lots of magic-bearing tattoos is one way of saying you're a tough guy. First, because the implication is that you need all that charm and ward power, and second, because you're hardly enough to bear the drain and the disorientation. Oh my god! As someone who is heavily tattooed, this is like, ah! But there are better ways of showing you are a tough guy than having lots of tattoos. Partly because no tattooist who wants to keep his or her license is likely to cooperate, and the ones who don't have licenses are too likely to make a mess of it. There's only one small secondary quarter circles difference between a ward against drunkenness and another one against eye strain, for example, and the latter won't get you home safely with a load on. And that's one of the common simple wards, and most of Mel's tattoos weren't common or simple, but they were magic bearers, not ornamental. You could smell it, like ozone, when a storm is coming. Besides, nobody who had any pretenses to hanging out with a biker gang would dare have ornamental tattoos. Ornies. Oh, for wusses. Ornies, they have their own name. Mel couldn't be a sorcerer. Sorcery isn't something you can successfully hide for long, but he did have a lot of tattoos. I thought this was leading to this reveal of him being a sorcerer, so I was just like, this is a surprise. It was typical of him, too, that when he had come to talk to Charlie about a job the first time, he had his sleeves rolled up above the elbows and his shirt open at the neck, in spite of the fact that it was January and freezing. Although maybe he just had a good take on Charlie, who in his affable, open-hearted way enjoys Charlie's reputation as a place slightly on the edge. I said, Mel, who are you? Excuse me. Mel picked up both my hands and kissed them. His lips were warm. When he laid them back on the table, he didn't let go. I watched the sunlight twinkle among the fine hairs on the backs of his hands, and the red and the gold and black of the tattoos there. Both the hairs and the tattoos had an unusually bright red edge, as if there was firelight on them, or in them. His hands were warm too. Human temperature, the temperature of the fire of human life. Speaking of metaphysics. I'm your friend, Sunshine, he said. Everything else is just static on the line. I wondered if he'd heard what Pat had said. I wondered who had done his tattoos. Maybe I thought I knew about magic-bearing tattoos was from the same script as the disquisition about how masturbating will make you blind and a cretin. Even newbies don't damage your sight. Maybe I should ask him, but then I have to tell him why I wanted to know. Even if you could successfully hide being a sorcerer, Mel still couldn't be one. Sorcerers are loners. They don't do things like get jobs as cooks in coffee houses or jive with their old motorcycle gang. Occasionally they hang with other sorcerers, but usually for some specific and time-limited purpose. Sorcerers are too paranoid to have ordinary human friends, and too competitive to have sorcerer friends. The street version about sorcerers is that they are basically not to be trusted. Humans aren't meant to be that mixed up with magic. Not even magic handling humans. Where did sorcerers get their tattoos? I don't know. I have no idea. It's so I love that there's still new things that I get to discover all the time in this book. Maybe I didn't know anything more. I drove home, thinking about that watch your back. I was already watching my back, and Pat knew it. Was he warning me to watch my back against Soph? Was a loyal, if part-blood member of Soph warning me that Soph itself was not to be trusted? Okay, lately I'd heard about part-bloods needing to stick together for mutual defense, and I'd heard a long time ago about the goddess of pain, and I knew none of our Sophs liked her. But I assumed this was only because she was a hard-ass, that word, who was more concerned with her own career path than with making humanity safe from the others. Was Pat suggesting something more ominous? And if he was he suggesting it about one overambitious Gorgon with skewed priorities? I almost said particles. Or about a treacherous vein? You should forgive the term running through all of Soph. Gods and angels, wasn't Bo enough? Right? Like, she's already up against, like, the most insurmountable odds with Bo, and then throw in the god. Oh, God. This is too much, Kitty. At a stoplight, I flipped open the glove compartment and looked at the clutter. A few of the charms twitched. Poor Mom. At least she was trying. I realized that I was grateful for the useless tangle, even if it was useless, because she was doing something. She hadn't averted her eyes from the fact I needed help. She had really no clue how much help or what kind. Only Khan really knew. Only he didn't know because he wasn't human, so he didn't know what he knew, or something. When I got home, I sat staring at the shadows the leaves from the trees threw on the driveway. They glinted and did strange things with perspective, like all shadows did now, but they were beautiful and they didn't mean anything. They were what happened when light fell on leaves. It wasn't late summer anymore. It was autumn, and the leaves were beginning to turn. A pale yellow one, like a big flat blanched almond, skittered across the hood of the wreck. I opened my knapsack and swept the thatch of charms into it, including one spark plug, quite a lot of string, and a few rubber bands, from back in the days when the glove compartment performed the usual function. I was pretty sure I felt a tiny penetrating buzz when my skin connected with one of the charms, but I had no idea why. Then I went and knocked on Yolande's front door. She opened it almost at once. "Come in," she said. Oh boy. "I have spoken to my old master." "Kitty, this is where it ends?" "No, but I want to know." "I want to know." Oh, Kitty, this book's so great. Okay. Wow, we're getting real close to the end of it, too. Thank you so much, Kitty. You're the best. Thank you, all of my Patreon supporters. This is the last video. I'm going to go upload them so all of you can enjoy it. Okay. See ya.